Good morning, Steve.
Good morning, Mark.
How are you?
I'm doing pretty good.
Good to hear. Good to hear. Sounds like you'll be in business with my employer soon, monitoring the situation.
Mark is on a plane as we speak, off to talk to some of your folks.
Okay, good. Yeah, it's a big organization, so multi-headed hydra.
Is that why the shirt?
No, this shirt is for my favorite band.
Okay.
It's a Spongle shirt. They are purveyors of fine electronic music.
Yeah,
Uh,
I've gone deaf.
so,
That put a crimp in my music appreciation.
oh, oh, I'm gonna see. I'm gonna move this over here. I'm gonna start sharing my screen. Where's my Zoom? Zoom needs to move. Zoom, go here. Do some screen share. Yeah, I'm as far as confidential computing, we split the responsibilities such that I am um, focused on like basically forward-looking industry direction. And can you see my screen, by the way?
I could see your screen.
Okay, good. And yeah, folks that Mark's going to be talking to are mostly talking about sort of immediate scenarios and immediate deployments.
Yep.
So, um,
I should dig it up. I did update that chart for this.
so what I want to do today is jump in and complete as much of the verifier governance work as possible. Yes, I know we've been at it for a really long time, but also the number of changes are significant, and this is sort of super important for uh, the overall governance. This is probably the linchpin, as I said.
Yep.
Now, what happened here is the roles were defined and the assets were defined. And as a result, some of the wording here, by the way, you guys still owe me the swim lane diagram. Was you or Mark had a draft I commented on?
I had put that together. I just sent you a new copy of it. Um, that has the key generation happening in the CPU.
I haven't seen that.
Um,
Maybe you should resend it.
I just put it in chat. Um,
Oh,
and it was the same document I had shared with you previously. I just added a page 2 to it. So
okay.
not that one.
Yeah, I'll take a look after. Hoping others will join them. There has been definitely a confusion about like time zones. So yesterday's, so I will probably be chairing the trustworthy workload identity group too.
Okay.
So, well, I'm making workload identity my sort of life work for the next foreseeable future. GRC is.
I'm doing a briefing to the Army this week, and um, uh, it glances off of zero trust, but that's exactly the premise I'm going with is you want workload identity, not machine identity.
Well, you can need combination of both, right?
You
You
can,
need
but
both.
that's what it gives you.
Yeah. Well, okay. So anyway, so the issue yesterday was we had like there was like interesting 6 or 7 people on the call, and I saw like, oh, lots of unusual faces. I haven't seen you folks before. Where are all the usual suspects? And they were trying to join an hour after the meeting wrapped up again
Oh,
because of the time zone switch. So that was confusing. And I today may be the same thing. Like we're like 5 minutes in. But I'll tell you what, you and I are gonna go and we're gonna go through my edits. And as
yep.
usual, Those who are in the meeting, have a say, and the rest need to catch up. So,
Be
uh,
present to vote.
you can see my screen well, right? So I don't need to zoom
Yes,
in or
I can see
anything.
your screen, no
Okay.
problem.
All right. So this was the first change. I didn't say operating and trusting. I basically said operating a trustworthy verifiers. You okay with that change?
I'm okay with that change.
All right. Next one is verifies the arbiter of the identity. So it's an arbiter of the identity, not necessarily the arbiter of trustworthiness, because the verifier's job is to basically vouch for what the thing is. But
Identifier is definitely the more correct statement. Trustworthy is implied. Identity is what you're actually measuring. So
would you be okay with this change?
I'm definitely okay with the change.
And then need to add the space. Okay. So that's trustworthiness may have to be determined by the
Already made
party
that
based on
change.
workload. Should I explain this in the main
I think
text?
we need to explain it.
Huh?
I don't think we have to explain trustworthiness.
All right. So then I added the statement discussion that follows to refer to the following roles and assets inherent in the trusted
Correct.
base. Tell you what, I'm gonna shoot a quick email here in my other window to the to the GRC SIG and saying
Okay.
we're meeting now. Make sure
Make sure everybody has got their
yeah,
clocks correct.
yeah. Okay. So I sent that little email. Oh, it went and updated all of this when they just accepted my last change. Maybe I should undo that for a sec. So anyway, so do you want to look over this? All the roles?
Let me read the roles. That was a
Please
big
do.
discussion
Yeah.
last week. I think all those are good.
Should I add on the very top row that the verifier hardware owner trusts the hardware manufacturer? Is that implied?
Repeat that again?
Should I say this in the trust relationships that the verifier hardware owner trusts the hardware manufacturer? Or is it sort of implied?
No, I don't think that the verifier owner, I don't think has to trust the hardware manufacturer.
Hardware
I
owner.
think the hardware owner. Yeah, probably.
Not just put it. Trust the hardware.
What I was trying to decide is whether it's the tenant administrator who has to trust the hardware manufacturer, and they also have to trust the verifier hardware owner. I don't
Well,
know.
that's what it says here.
Yeah, I don't know that the hardware owner actually has to trust the manufacturer, because they're not the ones that have a stake in the game. They're just providing hardware. Right. So if you think about a CSP, what you'd like to be able to do is you would like to be able to isolate the trust from the CSP.
So should I remove the statement and add it under
I think
verifier server
remove the statement.
administrator? Huh?
Yeah, I don't think it's required as we've talked about it. But the verifier
Well,
server.
here it says they may choose to test the verifier hardware that implies trust.
Yep, correct.
Okay. Sounds good. Verify tenant administrator. So see what I've basically said. I'm setting it up for a multi
Hi,
tenant
Michael. How
service.
you doing?
Hi.
Hey,
So
sorry I'm late. Zoom has just been
no
not my
worries.
friend today.
We're just going through the verifier governance pattern right now. There will be massive changes to it because we added roles and assets. So there was a bit of rewarding, and we are basically going through my proposed changes right now. So the process, Michael, just for your information, is we develop the document in the SIG, then because this has to do with verifier and attestation, we're going to take it up to the attestation SIG, get their blessing, and once both the GRC and attestation are okay with it, the TAC, the Technical Advisory Council, is going to bless it,
Right.
and then it's basically considered one of the consortium documents.
Nice.
So we're
Awesome.
we're close, but there are many changes today. So what I've done is there is a hardware owner for the service, verifier service. There is a service administrator broadly, and then there is a tenant administrator within the service, right? So we could, I don't know,
Right.
maybe I should illustrate that with, an attester relying parties are per tenant. Maybe I should even say that.
You go ahead and say that.
Okay. So
Yeah.
anyway, read over this so I don't have to, and just let me know if there's anything else I need to change, then we'll move.
I did read through it. I thought those were good, and I think we can accept this, which is the comment up above.
Yeah. And then there is this. All of this is new text. So let's just go over it.
Okay. Yes, absolutely. Right. This
Okay.
is minimum set of roles that we defined, and people can wear multiple hats. That's okay. But in terms of this document, those are the roles that we'll be precise around.
Yeah. Also, pay attention now from this point on that I've defined these terms, verifier server, verifier tenant, etc., that they're actually used consistently.
Yep.
Okay. And proper capitalization as well. So if it's like a term that is defined, I capitalize it. So again, look over this, and then we'll move into the asset table. By the way, Mike, for your benefit, I'm going to stick this in this link in the chat,
Okay, perfect.
and then you may need to like a Gmail account to access, but I'm monitoring my Gmail in the window here. So if you request access, I'll be able to grant it promptly. Hi,
Okay,
Alec.
perfect.
Hey guys, sorry,
Hi there.
took me a
So
while.
while we're reviewing this, quick note to you specifically because you're at Microsoft, I would like someone from Microsoft to get active in the trustworthy workload identity space.
Okay, I'll put the call out. Have
Yeah,
you?
please. We already got Google and we got IBM and we got Red Hat. We got a bunch of Intel, ARM, Microsoft should be there too because I'd like to make sure you guys are on board and provide your inputs. Yeah.
Has Greg Costel been a part of the discussions at all?
I don't recall. Hi, Nikolai. The link to the document is in the chat. We're basically going through the additions. So I defined roles for the verifier. I added assets. We're going through them right now. We're basically trying to accept as many changes as we can so we can throw this over to attestation SIG for final approval. So please catch up to here. So like review the new roles that have been defined. And then we're basically going through assets right now, and we're making sure that all the terminology is consistent.
Okay, yeah, thanks.
So RC here, there's a footnote because I needed to keep the column narrow. It's just basically says required confidentiality.
Yeah, I caught that. I'm reading and rereading these to make sure I've got them all clear in my head.
So like, for instance, attestation results is a RATS term, so that's why I'm capitalizing it.
Capitalizing it.
Yep.
Do we need to put a footnote that says we're referencing the RATS vocabulary?
I mean, it's one of the references.
Okay. That's the same.
Just a quick question, like when you say that the VSA trusts the verifier hardware owner, would you consider expanding here, or do you think just saying trusts is enough? Because like,
Well, so this is where it's a trust but verify. But ultimately, if you have doubts about who owns and operates your hardware, maybe they don't provide physical security. Maybe they are not going to be sloppy with their application of patches, right? You basically, you know, like you rent a car, you implicitly trust the rental agency to, you know, keep the car, you know, safe and maintained before you rent it.
yeah.
That sort of thing.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it just, I mean, I get it. It's just like this word trust. I wonder, like, others will have this, probably the same question in their mind, like, oh, trust to
Okay.
do.
So is it
But I
that,
get your trust and verify, yeah, absolutely.
so is it that maybe we should tease that out in a different section a little bit more, what constitutes trust or what would imply, like, in other words, an agreed upon terms of service with that hardware owner or something is expected? Is that what you're kind of driving at there, Nikolai?
Yeah, maybe like some sort of footnote even, or like, because I can't help but think that but like the reader will just say like, trust, like, so trusts what? And that's why
What constitutes trust? Or what's the
yes.
standard of it? Yeah.
Or like trust to do what? Like kind of that kind of thing. But we could as well leave it as is. It's just that
Mm-hmm.
spontaneously that was my first reaction. That's why,
Yeah.
you know, in this forum I can ask it directly while the reader will not be able to do that.
I can add a footnote here, and that'll be fine. Um,
Yeah, I was okay with trust not being defined because that's not something the hardware ultimately provides. The hardware provides identity. Trust is something in the relationship between the parties, and the degree of trust required, the degree of trust verified is going to depend on the situation. If I'm operating in China and I'm using Intel chips that are manufactured there, they've got a different encryption algorithm than the ones I would get here. Do I trust those? Do I not trust those? Where am I at? Do I want to operate? Those are all judgment calls I'll make based on the situation. And so it's not something the spec's going to determine. Trust is going to be brought by the parties. What we can provide as confidential computing is say, what's the bar that the technology provides? So the identity is going to be validated with a set of measures and signatures that you can chase and you can measure and you can quantify. Whereas I think when we use the word trust in this document, that should be something the parties bring on their own.
yeah. Well, like check out the footnote and just added, basically giving some examples of why you want to trust, but also saying, look, the precise degree of trust is, I'm going to put it outside the scope because it's more of a contractual relationship type of thing.
Don't want to beat a dead horse here, but maintaining timely patches, I mean, one would hope that the attestation evidence would provide that. So you could say trust the hardware without necessarily needing to trust the hardware owner. If the hardware owner doesn't
Well,
apply patches,
physical security might be something you expect. That's why.
physical security is a good call out.
Yeah, and the timely patches may be another one. So as I said, like when you rent a car, you actually expect it to be like recall free.
Well, but again, I'd call out the timely patches and exclude that, because timely patches in a rental car, you can check the gas gauge, right, and make sure that they filled it up before, and so attestation evidence would show whether or not timely patches had been applied. Physical security, you're right. You don't have attestation evidence for that yet.
But But is there a broader context of governance models, right? Because it's not just patching, it's not just physical security. Maybe there's governance models that you want to be assured are being exercised. Is that?
There may very well be, but for me, that's all encapsulated in trust and what the parties bring as opposed to what the confidential compute brings to the table. Alec and I had a great conversation some time ago about why one of our customers might trust one multi-billion-dollar company versus another billion-dollar company. Do you trust Azure to operate your servers? Do you trust Intel with the chips themselves? Confidential computing is just going to give you a way to measure identity and establish that proof, right? This is a Intel TDX chip. It's got patch level 14. I know what the guarantees are that I'm getting from the hardware manufacturer. That may mean I don't have to trust Azure in the relationship. But what degree of trust I need is not something that confidential compute can state. The business that wants to operate a system has to decide what trust they're after and what verifications they need for that trust. Certainly Azure, AWS, Google, they do a fabulous job of saying, here's all the processes we follow and here's everything we do. And that's all being done so that they can make a claim of responsibility, and then the parties that choose whether to use the CSP or not are going to decide whether that meets their bar for trust or not.
Yeah, I mean, I I totally agree with that. I think it's a good model, but I want to avoid the failures of the the big certificate authorities. And they're all nonprofits, and they claim to have governance models, and yet some of their keys get stolen and compromised. So I don't know. I worry if might we be missing, if everything is attestable in a perfect world and everything is attestable, then I would say you don't need signed contracts for trust. You can go verify. But when things are not that you depend on, like maybe the communications to the box.
You bring up a fabulous point that we don't address in this document, which is the mechanism for establishing identity is done through CAs and certificates and signing keys. And so there is implicit trust in the CAs, and we don't call that out in the document anywhere, but that's an underpinning of how the structure functions.
Right.
Actually, I remember Mark wrote, and I don't remember in which doc, but he did write about specifically the trust bundles that flow into these into the software, into the operating system. So it's mentioned somewhere, but that is a good call out.
Yeah.
So how
Maybe
would you
then-
change the text?
I would get rid of. You can't. I mean, I don't understand how you can verify an administrator.
So how about just verifier service? And instead of VSA, you say VS.
Yeah, and the verifier service implicitly trusts the verifier service administrator.
Correct.
Well, it's part of the same entity.
Yeah, it's you perceive it as a black box.
Yeah.
It's
Or maybe not administrator that represents.
Administrators works well too. I mean,
And maybe operates and bears responsibility. That's sort of.
yeah, exactly.
that's the person, the attestation policy administrator, if I'm using Rat's terminology, right?
No.
And if we're like nitpicking here, like what about then the hardware operator? Because owner, like I might own it just because I bought it, but you're operating it, so I have no control really over it.
I like it, and you don't even have to change the acronym.
Exactly. That's an easy one.
And then do we want to add the certificate authority?
There is not necessarily one that
Maybe just use the acronym. Yeah, I guess that's what you want to do.
Got another one in the next paragraph.
While you're there, Mark, I think the ability to trust both is, again, you can't attest the operator.
I'm not, there are no operators anymore. I'm removing them.
It's an owner.
Right.
The VHO here is basically the CSP. That's the place, the thing that operates the hardware that is installed somewhere.
Here's the sentence that I'm sticking on in the verifier tenant description. You say the verifier tenant trusts the verifier service directly and the verifier hardware operator transitively, but may choose to attest both. I don't think you can attest the verifier hardware operator.
You can attest the verifier hardware.
Yes.
Exactly, and probably that's what we should explicitly state.
How would you say that?
Just say verifier hardware if that's what you want to say. Verifier hardware transitively and may choose to attest both.
And verify our hardware. Yep.
Okay.
There's just like a small spelling mistakes there in verifier service. Right now it's verifier. Okay. Yeah, just there, exactly.
It says verifier service.
There's a mistake.
Okay.
Oh, the typo, gotcha.
Yeah, the
Okay.
typo. Yeah. Yes, and then this other one, I just added this comment. So does it make sense to bundle both attesters? Like if you think that, sometimes the attester could be a relying party and so on, but in some other cases, when the attester is just some endpoint, does it?
Well, the attester still needs to know that it's talking to the right verifier. That's covered later.
Absolutely, yes, I agree with that. But relying for trust decisions.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm going to take something the verifier gives me and take it to some relying party, and then I'm going to share information with that relying party, I probably want to make sure that my attester is my verifier is not screwing me.
Yes, that's a valid point. However, what if I, as an attester, I want to get access to some resource and therefore perform the attestation. So, I'm not going to share anything. So of course I would like to get access to that resource, but I don't rely on the verifier.
Well, you don't need, you can have a degree of trust and not necessarily exercise it. I don't think we should be splitting hairs that far because we'll never be done.
Okay, I'm just the idea of like whether they need to be in the same category because they're quite different. Like the relying party is like really obvious, what the attester like not necessarily.
Well, a tester does share evidence with a verifier, and that evidence might in itself be sensitive.
Okay, so
I would say in this particular document that we're focused on the verifier service itself, the governance, and from its perspective, it doesn't matter if it's an attester or relying party per RATS, they both come in essentially the same way. They're the ones that are seeking verification as opposed to being part of that verification process. So I don't think they need to be separated in this document, but we have to call them out as two different things because they're called out as two different things in RATS.
Okay, fine.
Okay,
and
so
then
I'll resolve this comment then.
Sorry?
Nikolai, can I resolve this comment?
Yeah,
Or
yeah.
just discuss what I said?
Done.
All right. So now we're going into the next section. So this is all done. We're going to the next section now, which is the assets. Let's make sure we review all the assets.
I changed that paragraph at the top of the page to agree with the new terms that you put in the table.
Yeah, yeah, perfect. Thank you. Then I can basically remove these because we already covered that. Or
We've redefined the terms above and they're now redundant, yes. Which probably implies that the redefining of the terms was the right thing to do.
yeah.
So what do you want to do with that separate table?
This table is, these are the assets. It's a good table to have. So these are the roles.
So we just need to change the role to agree with the table above.
We already did.
We did.
Service.
This used to say VSA, VTA, etc. Now it's not, it doesn't. So
Okay,
now
cool.
it agrees with stuff.
My copy took a little second to refresh it.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
Sorry, I was updating those as we were talking.
Yeah.
The question is, are there any more assets to think about? This
Well,
was
That's the
Please
right
suggest.
question for sure.
Please suggest, because I think
no,
I think this is a
I
complete.
thought already earlier about this when creating the early version of this. You know, that there might be, I mean, this might be start to become a bit like implementation specific, because there might be other types of keys and key hierarchies. For example, AMD SCV has a certain type of like hardware owner keys and so on. The question is like, do we need a kind of a category that would be a catch-all, like other keys or so on, or we should just
So
avoid?
if it's a matter of policy, then it's a reference value. So like these are the keys that we need to compare things against, that goes against reference values. So fewer categories is best.
Is better, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
One of the
I
things
think we
I
should
was
not
trying
go
to
because this, yeah.
One of the things I was trying to figure out, Nikolai, on that same topic was, if we end up too specific, how will the document age over time as technology changes? And there's a couple of caveats Mark put in here where he says the private key or similar, the signing key or similar. And for me, that was enough. So I was wondering if there were other places we need to add that to give ourselves permission to say there's more than one way than a digital signature and a signing key to prove the authenticity of a document. And so are we sufficiently vague to support those in the future? And so I was trying to think through those, and for me, the or similar was good enough for now. But I like the thread you're on and making sure that we've got the document so it's going to stand the test of time as well. Right? What changes are post-quantum going to bring to us that may change some of this? I don't know. I was trying to think through those implications.
Yeah, probably post-quantum does not change much at all. It's a lot about the implementations, the ciphers that will be used, and so on.
I
But
do
it's the right
think
line.
there is probably one asset missing, and that's verifier service secrets. Because here it says excluding cryptographic keys, right? So basically saying it's got like how your verifier service is configured doesn't require confidentiality, right? Integration with supporting services. But if it has any keys used for any purpose, and we don't need to specify them here, then I think I need a row, and I need to basically say yes, they do require confidentiality. So.
Yeah, I mean, you're explicit that the source code of the verifier does not require secrecy, but the key that gets the whole thing established does.
Yeah. A question about the value in the requires confidentiality column for verifier service configuration. So if this configuration includes, for example, the policy, the assessment policy.
No, that wouldn't. It wouldn't. That's
wouldn't.
a tenant, because verifier service hosts tenants and tenants execute policy.
Okay, good. Okay.
So
Right. Now I see how you think about it. Now I see
That's
that.
basically, that is covered in the last two rows.
Yeah. Because now I forgot. It's a multi-tenant, so like, yeah. I see the point.
Don't we need a tester assets?
No, this is verifier governance, not a tester governance. If you feel and the tester needs something, that's part of like hosting a payload, belongs in a different document.
Isn't it an asset that? So
No, not for verifier, does not.
yeah, not for verifier, but do we have, so anywhere in this document, do we have?
Different
test-
document. Different document. So if you're going to, if you're governing in the tester, this is something that is not part of the verifier service. It is, it would have to go into a different document.
Oh, right. Do we have a tester? Are
Well,
doing-
we have payload governance,
Okay,
right? So if you feel that there is a separate document for, how do you govern the machine that hosts payloads? Okay, that could be a separate document, but I don't think
got
that
it.
one
Yeah.
exists. But we
Yeah.
have one around, like cradle to the grave payload governance.
Okay.
Okay, so any other comments on this? Again, check for capitalization. I just capitalized this E.
The only thing I was wondering is on the optional, that ultimately I think depends on the tester and what their requirements are as opposed to the verifier itself. The verifier tenant reference values, for example.
I think that might really depend on the deployment scenario and use case.
I probably would add another asset here, which is the verifier tenant data at rest. That's an asset, like its own, like logs.
Yep, that's fine.
Oh, yeah, I like logs.
Now, I can actually add it instead of, no, I do not want to put it data at rest. So that would be under VT.
Isn't it more
And
valuable to indicate the logs, event logs?
is that
Does it-
data other than policies maintained by the verifier tenant, such as logs? And confidentiality is optional.
Do you want to make it more related to the attestation process? Because there might be just all sorts of logs and not all of them, because otherwise you would need to do exactly the same for the verifier.
Oh, do you want to say attestation logs or like, well, it's like history of policies, that sort of thing.
Exactly, but what I mean, like closer to attestation, because otherwise you would have to do the same things for the verifier service, because there are like operating system logs and so on.
So how would you phrase it?
Like the same, such as logs produced in the attestation process or by the attestation
There's
process.
logs related to the attestation. Okay, is that good enough?
Yep, just a typo there, but otherwise good.
All right. Hey, there is a comment here from Chris Ramming. He's not here, but what are we talking about? He's talking about Separation of duties. Yeah, I think we covered it. So I should close this comment. What do you think?
Yeah,
Because this is on an older version before we had all
yeah,
the.
this was in October.
Yeah, okay, good.
Things have
This
happened.
document has been around for a while. Okay. So yeah, we're deleting administrator everywhere. That's good. Did that. Sign and encrypt. Okay, so that's all covered. Service. I'm just like updating the things that we already changed the terminology. I just want to go through comments for a moment. Okay, we're so close. So we still need that swim lane diagram. Yes.
That there doesn't make any sense now that we've combined those roles. Okay, there you go. Must be properly administered, period, right?
Properly administered. Yep. The verified tenant must be the most current policies of that tenant. And the tester should know which verified tenant to contact data, so we know that is correct. Okay. That's done. So we have the swim lane.
I just added a quick comment. I think this here should be removed. We've defined the assets, so we shouldn't restrict it to policy and cryptographic keys.
Okay, that's fine.
So
Check
what do
this
we
out.
do with
We're
the
basically
comment
saying we
from-
don't necessarily trust the verifier service, so we maintain isolation.
Yeah. So what about this comment from Dan from December?
The verifier is also key management service. Yeah, basically I said we're being technology agnostic, so Dan isn't here. So I'm inclined to close it. It's too old and
Go ahead and close it.
Yeah.
all right. So where are we?
I gave you a second on the vote.
Just gonna accept a bunch of small changes here.
Were those changes put in as a result of a search and replace, or did you put them in?
No, I went in like and read everything.
Gotcha. Wow. Okay. I was thinking maybe search and replace while you're in suggest
I
mode.
don't trust automation that much. It's a short document. It's really
Yeah.
not. It's actually
We're,
still
we're back,
pretty
we're
short.
back to trust again.
Okay. So, all right.
Just a quick question here. Number 4, just above governance expectation summary. What are we trying to say here? I mean, because
Oh,
uh,
this is a reference to another document.
no,
Okay.
no, here. This last thing. Like, I'm always when we define like,
Public
is there a broader category here? So just above, like point 4 that is above there. Yeah.
Ah, this one.
Yes. So here we were talking about ensuring and being able to prove that the correct policy is applied. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Fine. And then we're speaking about temper evident logs of policy and cryptographic key histories.
Yes.
Again, is that all, or should we just refer like logs of the assets, basically? Because
No, I think we should specify. These are the histories that an auditor might actually care about.
okay, so here we speak about policy, so that's like changes to the policy and cryptographic key histories. Do you mean like when they were rotated and so on?
Correct. Any change. So like basically if an attestation decision was made based on some policy, I would like to be able to go and say, what policy was it? It was October 22. And I should be
Okay.
able to go to the log and I should be able to identify it.
Okay. And then when we say cryptographic keys, that refers to any of the keys that we mentioned in the assets table, right?
Probably, yeah.
Because there are many. And okay, so all right. Okay, yeah, I see then what you mean. Fine.
So last few comments here. Oh, and there's this comment. Wait, this one. I just want to go over it real quick. This is from February 11.
Yeah, this is very interesting. However, there might be scenarios where none of the options that you mentioned there are still valid. You know.
Should I just close it and not worry about it right now?
Yeah, just don't worry about it. I think it's overthinking.
Yeah, that's fine. So the swim lane will still be put in. Well, that's something that I have it up here.
I actually think we covered it, not the swim lane, but the comment you just had, because the tester and relying party are trusting the verification service. And we're using trust as opposed to the integrity guarantee. They can, in fact, ask for the measurements of the verifier. So there is a way to get to the identity of what that code is, if that's something that's required for a particular use case. But is that required for the operation? No, it's not. All that is required is that some sort of trust is established.
That's fair. Okay, so this is one last comment. I just want to close this up.
Yeah, I think it's valid to close. I mean, it's true. I mean, yes, best practices, but it's indeed extremely generic.
Okay, fair enough. Do we have a quorum
Yep,
on that?
I can second it.
All right. So we're done. No more comments. I'm gonna throw this over to the attestation SIG now. And basically tell them this is the best we can do. And hopefully so 2 weeks from yesterday, they'll take a look and we will hopefully get over the finish line.
Yeah, that'll be good.
Awesome.
Hey guys,
Sweet.
if we're done here, I'd like to, we've got 10 minutes. I'd love to discuss that ISO email that I sent around yesterday.
What is that again?
I didn't see it.
Okay,
I didn't see that.
I sent an email to the TAC. Here, let me do this. Oh, fiddlesticks. Yeah, I sent it. Let me just talk and search at the same time. I sent an email to the TAC about a document that's being drafted by ISO, that's specifically defines terms used by confidential computing. And it looks just exactly like our terminology white paper published by the CCC, with notable differences in the terms that they chose. But the overlap is like 75%. So the kinds of review that we've just done in this doc, being extremely careful to use consistent terms and consistent capitalization and so forth, is missing in that other document, in my opinion. Let me just bring it up. And
Can you send a link to that, or like?
Here's the problem, and this doc just kind of floated across my desk from members of the CCC board. I don't think it's been. It's in the draft form. Let me just, sorry, I should have had this prepared and I don't. Give me one quick second.
Okay. While you do that, can we take a quick look on this? There's a couple of different. Which one should we review, by the way?
Second one.
Second one?
Second, page 2 is the revised one after your comments.
Okay.
There it is.
Yeah, it's almost entirely wonderful. The workload itself is probably doing some work here too. I do not know if it should be mentioned. Like, for instance, once the T is created, but before measurements are signed, right? There is a quote then where the workload like generates a key and then it gets itself measured. I do not know if that should be mentioned, but
yeah, I mean, the workload is responsible for asking the CPU to do that work.
yeah, but there's no workload is not in the swim lane itself. The workload operator is here. So it's built and it's started. And it's like, and then
yeah, the way I normally think of it is there's the things that are going to run before the workload starts on the CPU, and then there's there's a variety of ways you can launch the TEE. There's a variety of ways you can invoke the measurement. So I didn't call that out as separate from the workload itself, nor did I put a workload swim lane. Those are fair comments.
How does the workload change though, once it's put in the TEE?
The workload's going to mutate the way it normally mutates. The workload operator can shut it down and then start it up again, or start a new one, or start a different one.
Yeah, maybe we should show that cycle process with a swim lane.
someone's
Sorry, I
it.
lost you there. I didn't.
Oh.
I didn't hear that, Mari.
Yeah, I think we lost Mari. Mari is muted too. So I can't. So Alex, go back real quick to what you wanted. I want to make sure that's not lost.
Yeah, let me just share this doc really quick. Can I steal your screen?
Yeah. I'll stop sharing.
Come on. Let me know if you can see it.
I was saying, Steve, there'd be good maybe to have a workload swim lane that shows how the workload morphs and maybe kicks off some of those processes again or something. And the workload could be stopped and started by the operator too. So there might be some interplay. Could be good to show the swim lane.
So I think that's probably a separate document. It's a good question because there's an awful lot in how how what I've abbreviated into you kick off the measurement process goes on. AMD's got a really good document for how to what changes are required in the boot sequence of a confidential VM, for example. So I do have some documents around. I did this for TDX at one point, and what its flow looks like. In terms of the attestation verifier, I don't think any of that matters. What matters to the attestation verifier is you put together measurements and you present the measurements and they're signed. But on the actual CPU, there's an awful lot going on behind the scenes that poke me again and I'll work on that document.
Hey, really quick, guys. So here's a new doc that's in draft by the ISO. There's a title, Cybersecurity Confidential Computing Part 1 Overview and Concepts. It's a pretty long doc. It's in draft. When you go back, when you look through it, for example, you get to some of this stuff here. And they define what is required for confidential computing. This thing kind of struck me as something that's not required in their definition of confidential computing. So they see attestation as being an extended property, not a core property. They require that the software be encrypted, not just integrity protected. There's a lot of things in here that are in close alignment with the CCC's definition of confidential computing, but there's some terms that are defined subtly differently in ways that I think would clash with our definition. I'm curious if any of you has heard of the effort to release this draft as part of an international standard, or if nobody as part of our group for,
No, we should probably reach out, and if there is a request for comments,
I've not heard of the effort. It's new. I do think the TAC in particular should sink their teeth into the document and provide some input to it. I absolutely agree with you. Things like attestation should be part of the core principle because you don't actually have any data protection in my mind if you don't have attestation.
Right. And when you read this doc, maybe we can do this at some point in the near future. I can't share this doc, or I'm asking Microsoft if I can share this doc. Boy, asking a question like that at Microsoft you get a lot of different answers. I want to be able to share this doc until I can. What I'd like to do is maybe just screen share it and do it that way.
Go back up
Is
to the
there
top.
any mention about who does this? I saw the name of the convener. For some reason, this person is on my second degree connection on LinkedIn, so I'll reach out to him to ask where this is coming from and who's behind the effort. I think this is very interesting, and I think, of course, this would take a very long time, but when it's there, it will just overwhelm all our efforts. So if there's a clash, this will have precedence. So we should make sure that it's right.
Right. That kind of made my hair stand up a little bit too when I saw it, Nikolai. So I totally agree with you that all our CCC efforts will be swamped by anything.
Exactly, just wasted. Yeah.
So we need to get alignment. The doc is not new. It's been around for over a year now. I think we need to figure out how to integrate these folks with the CCC. So if that's not already going on, and I sent the mail out to the team, but since we're kind of in charge of standards and governance, figured I'd start with us. There's a link, by the way, Steve, you don't have to take a picture of the screen. You're going to explain it here.
No, there was a QR code at the top, and the QR code goes to the document.
Yep.
Nice.
To the actual document, or just to a page that shows the schedule for delivery of the document?
I don't actually know. That's why I was taking a picture of the QR code to figure out where it went.
Yeah, so in the mail that I sent out yesterday, there is a public URL that's published by the ISO that has a schedule for delivery of this document. And as you might predict for the ISO, the public review comment is rather long. It hasn't gotten to the public review stage, but if we don't get I would like to get in earlier before this goes to public review. So
Yeah.
Nikolai, you maybe have some inside connections. I don't have an inside connection to Yoan, but I do have inside connections to the ISO. So let's, the two of us, and anybody, I sent this out to the wider TAC. Let's all reach out and say, hey guys, let's put together a joint committee for review of this document.
I mean, I see it as both like extremely positive and dangerous. Positive because like it's great. I mean, if it's done correctly and if it's an ISO, this is like really good for the entire, let's say, community.
Absolutely.
But
And
dangerous because if it's gonna get wrong, then good luck.
And it was written by a person who does not have when you read it, you just read slight things that they have high level concepts, but they haven't been thinking about it quite long enough to write a document of this depth. So some of it just needs polish, and some of it, like the need for attestation, and especially hardware-based attestation, I think that's going to be a significant change if the document was written intentionally to leave it out, which I don't have evidence to suggest it was intentionally left out. It's more than likely just an omission because the author wasn't sufficiently aware and hadn't been part of the conversations. So all that to say, let's all lean in and try and
Send the
engage.
link to the GRC mailing list, please, with that note.
Did you I'll just resend. If you look in your email from TAC, I sent the mail out yesterday.
I see. Okay, well, I'll take a look at it.
Yeah, and I'll resend it again to you specific, Mark. Make sure
That's
you
fine.
get it.
That would be great. All right, folks, I need to drop. Thank you again for your help. We will, or I will integrate this swim lane into the main line of the dock. I will also send, capture this before we go. This is the link to the swim lane diagrams. Capture that, comment on it, and then I will put some version of it and whatever we approve of into this document under the swim lanes, and then I'm throwing it over to the attestation SIG. And then next time, let's start talking about break and inspect, which is going to be the mother of all battles.
Right.
It's the can everyone kicks down the road. It's not acceptable anymore.
Yeah, that's a dangerous can.
Okay. No, that's the one we like most. All right.
Right.
See you
Pleasure
guys.
to see you all in one place again. I'll see you in a couple of weeks.
Yeah. Bye-bye.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye.